coming up on BG24 Sports. Swim and dive is headed to MAC championships. Can the women pull off the win?
Plus, men's hockey went through some troubles this weekend against Northern Michigan. We'll talk about how the guys can bounce back heading to Alaska.
And men's basketball took a double-digit loss to Buffalo this weekend. Now the guys are looking to rebound after a 2-game losing streak. All this and more coming up right here on BG24 Sports.
Unfalcon believable coverage that you won't get anywhere else. This is BG24 Sports.
Welcome to BG24 Sports. I'm Katie Wernke.
And I'm Terry Lash. And the men's basketball team was trying to rebound from a shocking Wednesday night loss to Miami. It was the Buffalo Bulls traveling to the Stroh Center on Saturday morning to take on the Falcons. Early on in the contest, Spencer Parker hit a nice floater in the lane, trying to put the Falcons up early. Then inside, Zach Denny throws it down to Sean Holmes, who slams it home. Falcons went into the break, though, trailing by 14. In the second half, it was Javon Clark coming off the bench with 12. He had a nice pull-up J right there, but it would be too much black and blue as the Bulls battered the Falcons in this contest. Their backcourt scored 34 points, and they won 68-56.
Now let's take a look at some of these game stats. The second double-digit loss for the Falcons in a row. If we look at some of these stats here, the Bowling Green, their field goal percentage was .400 compared to Buffalo's .357. Sort of not too much of an even board across the floor there.
Now, the Falcons' offense has been absolutely anemic of late, Katie. They just can't find anything. Only 15 points on their best scorer, Rashawn Holmes. Not a bad performance by him in any stretch of the imagination, but he's just not getting much help. The rest of the stars only had 19 points total. That's 4 other guys. He just needs more help on there if they're going to compete with these other teams.
Absolutely. When you don't have those starters, we talk about it. I think we talk about it every single week, Terry. You need more than one guy to count on to get those points. While the Falcons did have 4 scorers in double digits, if we take a look at some of them. Rashawn Holmes, like you said, had 15. Javon Clark with 12. Spencer Parker with 11. Delvin Dickerson with 10. But who are we missing up there?
Oh, you see him at the very bottom, Zach Denny, only 5 points. And it's great. We see Javon Clark and Spencer Parker. That's 23 points off of the bench. Huge bench production by those 2 players. But we need that production from our starters. Delvin Dickerson did his part, but Zach Denny, we gave him so much props last week. We were praising his name, and this week he laid 2 goose eggs against Miami and then only 5 points against Buffalo.
Absolutely. In his previous games, we praised him. He had double digits, and now he has 5 points. Only 1 rebound, 1 3-pointer. In 22 minutes played, we did not see a lot from Zach Denny, and that ends up hurting the Falcons because we said he was our go-to guy with Rashawn Holmes, and now I don't know if we can say that anymore.
Yeah, the guy that was averaging 9.6 points per game and 5.7 boards, he only had 5 and 1. Just absolutely didn't show up in this contest, only getting 22 minutes. They're going to need more of Zach Denny if they want to get the victory this Wednesday.
They absolutely are. If we look at some of the MAC standings now, Bowling Green fell. They are now second in the standings. Kent State took first, and this is just the MAC East. And what can you say about that, Terry? They were first, trying to hold on to that spot, and then they fell after those 2 losses.
Absolutely right. They came into the weekend at 93 top, and not just the MAC East, but the entire MAC Conference. Lost both games. Now they dropped to 9-5 in the MAC East, standing second, and they're 4th overall in the entire MAC Conference. And look, Buffalo and Akron breathing down their necks. There is no room for error for this Falcon basketball team.
Absolutely not. Like you said, Buffalo and Akron right there. Buffalo was on a 2-game win streak. Kent State is on a 3-game win streak, and there's Bowling Green on the 2-game losing streak. So they really have to come back and rebound coming up against Ohio.
Yeah, we saw some of the top teams. We saw Toledo come through. We saw Central Michigan come through. The teams that were supposed to win did win this weekend, except for the Falcons. And you have to wonder if that inexperience of being in this prime position starting to catch up with them at the end of the season.
It might be, and even looking at the MAC tournament coming up too, if you look at the West Division, you have Central Michigan, like you said, in Toledo, and then Western Michigan, Eastern Michigan, all tough teams that the Falcons might have to face later on. I don't know, that West Division is looking pretty strong.
And you have to remember that right now Bowling Green is at number 4 in the standings. They would get a bye to the semifinals in the MAC tournament, lose any more games, and that's 2 more games that they would have to play. So it is really do or die right now for the Falcons. There is no room for any sort of collapse.
It absolutely is do or die time. Now when we come back, hockey took on Northern Michigan over the weekend. Hear what Coach Bergeron had to say about the Wildcats' weekend sweep. Welcome back. Hockey took on Northern Michigan this weekend, looking to seal the home ice advantage for the first round of the WCHA tournament. The Falcons were looking for a win Saturday at the Madhouse on Mercer with Chris Snell in the net after Tommy Burke got the loss on Friday. In the first period, the goals came early as everyone tries to get a stick on this one, but Brent Tate eventually knocks it in to put the Falcons up 2-0 at the end of the period. But later in the second, Pierre-Luc Mercier gets his shot deflected, but Sean Walker says he wants a piece of it. Walker's goal puts the Falcons up 3-0. Northern Michigan looks like they might just have to give this one up. At least that is what those Falcon fans think. But the Wildcats are relentless. They score 4 goals in the last 25 minutes of the game to complete the sweep Saturday night, taking the win 4-3.
Well, if there was an absolute perfect message, it'd be a lot easier. But you kind of have to almost decompress after something like this and go away from each other and then come back on Monday and reflect and talk about it.
You know, guys are upset. You know, tough loss. You know, when you're up 3-1 going into the third at home, it's pretty devastating to blow a lead like that. And like I said, we got to find a way to close out games. You know, so we don't have this problem again.
Now, if we take a look at Northern Michigan by the period, in the first period, the shots on goal, they had 7, and then the second they had 5, and then in the third period, they had 10 shots on goal. That is an extensive difference from the second period, especially compared to Bowling Green's 4 shots in the third period.
Well, just look at the power plays, Kate. 3 power plays in the third period. That's 3 times the amount they had all game long. And of course you're going to get more shots. I know the Falcons have the best power play defense in the country, but you can't afford to have that many shots at the net. Of course you're going to give up big goals.
Absolutely. Bowling Green had 27 total shots this game. They had compared to Northern Michigan's 22. But just the disparity in the third period alone is incredible. Like I said, Bowling Green's 4 shots on goal compared to 10. That means for most of the period, that puck is down on Chris Snell's side. He's trying to defend it. And when it's down 15 out of the 20-minute period, you can't really blame the loss on Chris Snell.
And it's not a new problem. We've been talking about this a little bit with Ferris State. We saw it with Lake Superior State a few weeks ago. There's something that the defense has to shore up late in the game. They can't afford these late collapses. No,
they absolutely cannot. We saw it on Friday as well. The Falcons were up 2-1, and then in overtime, they ended up losing it in overtime. But let's hear what Chris Bergeron has to say about Northern Michigan's offense in the third period.
They were resilient tonight for sure. They bunch of penalties there in the second period. Guys were hurt. I saw guys seem like a kind of a never-ending thing back to the locker room, and obviously we stopped playing, and that's I think it's as much of a tribute to them. But you know, the way four shots in the third with a 2-goal lead is obviously not very good.
Now, Terry, we just heard what Chris Bergeron had to say. Not the best offense or defense by Bowling Green, but the incredible resiliency by Northern Michigan in that third period and really over the entire weekend.
You're right, and in both games, it looked like the Falcons had it in hand going into the third period, a 1-0 lead on Friday, and then that 3-1 lead on Saturday. Remember, the Falcons were up 3-0 in the second period, and they let it go away. And I think it has to talk about the youth of this team, Katie.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. That youth of the team does show. Bowling Green had 5 goals, Northern Michigan had 7. But Northern Michigan had 5 third-period goals. You can't give up 5 third-period goals, especially when you're trying to get the win, when you're leading. The Falcons had a 3-goal lead on Saturday, and they ended up blowing that lead.
You're absolutely right, and it just shows that the defense wasn't as committed as they need to be in that third period, not just on the defensive standpoint, but the penalty standpoint. We talked about it. When you're in the box, you can't help your team on the ice, and that really hurt the Falcons this weekend.
It absolutely did, but if you look at Northern Michigan, straight back to their penalties, they had 21 penalty minutes on Saturday, and for Bowling Green to only get 1 power play goal on Saturday with 21 minutes of an opportunity for power play goals, that's really not acceptable.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Katie. It was just a really bad break for the Falcons. They need to do better about staying out of the box. But we got to give credit to Northern Michigan, where credit is due. They came back. They got the victories. Now it's time for the Falcons to bounce back this week against Alaska.
They absolutely did. The Madhouse on Mercer was flooded with Northern Michigan fans, so absolutely. But when we come back after the break, it's been an argument we've had all year. Who is the #1 goalie for BG hockey? Stay with us. Welcome back. We saw Tommy Burke and Chris Snell both take the ice this weekend, both getting losses. Now, we've had the discussion on who the go-to goalie should be, but head coach Chris Bergeron is not so sure at who that should be. Take a listen.
Yeah, the goaltending thing is obviously wide open. We're looking for one of the three to be the #1. None of them are that. Tommy leaves the door open for somebody else last night, and then obviously, Chris wasn't able to take advantage of his opportunity tonight. So we got out goaltended all weekend long. I mean, that's just real. So we say we need better goaltending.
And it's been the talk of the town all season long between Chris Snell and Tommy Burke. Let's look at this weekend's stats. Chris Snell on Saturday had 18 saves and 4 goals allowed, and Burke on Friday had 21 saves and 3 goals allowed. But the biggest stat, both got losses.
That you're right. Chris Snell and Tommy Burke, that goalie question it's up in the air, and they did both have those losses. Chris Snell, he has played in 12 games this season. He's allowed 26 goals, a .214 goals per game average. But Tommy Burke, he's played in more games, and therefore his stats for goals per game is a little bit higher, but he does have the higher save percentage.
Yeah, but what you've done for me lately, of course, Burke has been better lately, but if you see some of kind of Burke's, we have 16 game plays, 420 save, a .925 save percentage with 2.13 goals per game, but he's just been far superior recently than Chris Snell. Chris Snell has really struggled as of late. We've talked about it time and time again. We saw a couple weeks ago, it was Tommy Burke getting both starts, and we're wondering whether they even go back to Chris Snell, Tommy Burke. We saw it, and we saw both losses, and it seems like Chris Snell is in sort of a funk.
It absolutely does, and I think that is why Tommy Burke could be your go-to goalie. If you take a look at some of his stats, he's 9-4-3. He's played the most games this season. He has the most saves. He has the highest save percentage. I don't see why you wouldn't go with Tommy Burke. He has that experience. He's a junior, while Chris Snell is just a freshman. Thomas Scholl is a sophomore. So he has that experience. He's played in the most games, and he's been in those high-pressure situations before.
You're right, and we saw him play 3 games in a row against Fair State and win all 3 games, and maybe that quells some of the questions of stamina between the two. And I think I don't know if as much as a matter of Tommy Burke. We're very confident in Tommy Burke. The team knows Tommy Burke can go out and perform. But can Chris Snell go in and perform? We saw his potential early on in the season, but as of late, we've seen his last 5 games, 0-4-1, winless in 5 straight. This is a guy that came out of the blocks on fire. He was 5-0 to start the season.
Absolutely, and Tommy Burke's last 5 games, 3-2-0. And they put Chris Snell in after that series against Fair State, after Tommy Burke had those 3 wins, and Chris Snell gets the loss. And I think, as we say, or as I say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So why would you put in Chris Snell if Tommy Burke is getting the job done? Yeah, he had 1 loss against Northern Michigan this weekend, but he's getting the wins. He's getting more wins than Chris Snell, and he's one that you can count on just looking at the past few games.
You're right, Katie. And you have to wonder about if putting Chris Snell in there is throwing off Tommy Burke a little bit. Maybe he doesn't have that collapse on Friday night if he's been in more games and seen that situation more
Absolutely.
often.
But there is one more goalie, and Thomas Scholl. We have not seen him in a while. Let's take a look at some of his stats now. His last game played was in January against Alaska. And after 1 period, he let 2 goals go by, and they replaced him with Tommy Burke. So I don't think Thomas Scholl is the go-to guy that Chris Bergeron is looking for, or else we would see him play in more games. He hasn't played in about a month. And I think he's still going to go with Tommy Burke or Chris Snell.
And you're absolutely right. And I think a lot of the problem that we don't see Scholl anymore is because both Nell and Burke were playing so well. But now that Chris Snell isn't playing as well, and they want to keep that rotation perhaps, maybe they'll go back to Scholl, maybe do a Burke-Scholl rotation. Who knows?
It wouldn't be bad to put another one in just to see how he would flow into the mix. Maybe put Thomas Scholl in some of those more high-pressure situation games. Maybe not the WCHA tournament, but maybe coming up this weekend or next weekend. I guess we'll find out, though. But after the break, it's more hockey. The WCHA tournament is right around the corner, and after that, a possible NCAA tournament. We'll go over the rest of the Falcons season when we come back.
Now welcome back, and now after this weekend there are a lot of question marks in the air surrounding the Bowling Green Falcon hockey team, and after Saturday's tough loss, Coach Bergeron questioned his own team's success.
Obviously something like that's as much mental as it is physical. They're young guys. We're not ready to be the great team that we've been talking about based on our record. That's just a fact. I do think that we competed really hard, at least at the first 35 minutes of the game.
And Katie, the question remains, are they great? Is this a great Bowling Green Falcon hockey team?
I think it is a great Bowling Green Falcon hockey team. Compared to last year, they finished third in the WCHA, but they were not ranked. They did not have that national prestige. They did not have the prestige in the WCHA like they do this year. And while this team is very youthful, that youth is carrying them this far. The leading scorer tied for second is Brandon Hawkins. He's a freshman. You have Kevin Dufour, who's a sophomore, who is the leading scorer. So the youth is really helping this team, and it's not hurting it. I think while they do have some fumbles here and there, they are a great team.
Good, not great. They're a very good team. I'll give them
Move
very good. I'm moving up a little more
more.
still, not to the great level yet. They're playing great hockey early in the season, but now I think it's started to come down a little bit, the length of the season, the physicality of it. I think the youth is going to definitely propel them in the future, a couple of next years. Bowling Green's going to be great for a while in hockey, but they're just not at that great level yet. I think they still have all the potential to make the tournament, and they're going to be a great team, but I just don't see it quite yet. I think that youthfulness right now is kind of holding them back a little bit.
I think the stamina could hurt them in the end, but right now I think it's just the fact that they're so caught up in winning, and they're maybe they're taking these games lighter than they should be. But I guess we won't find out until these games come up. But Dan DeSalvo tells us what he thinks they need to do to bounce back from this loss against Northern Michigan.
Right now, it's kind of tough right after the game to put this one behind you. But I think, the quicker you can do it, there's nothing you can do about it right now. Our next focus is Monday at practice, doing whatever we need to do to get better and come ready next week and to get 2 wins.
And the team's upcoming schedule has a few games at Alaska Anchorage, and it'll be 2 games the Falcons should win 2 in a row this weekend at Alaska Anchorage, and they're back home at the Madhouse on Mercer against Alabama Huntsville, and then it's time for the WCHA tournament. Katie, I can't wait.
Absolutely. And Alaska Anchorage, they have not played them yet this year. They have played Alabama Huntsville. They swept that series in October, so it's been a while since they've played Alabama Huntsville, but they haven't seen Alaska Anchorage, and traveling to Alaska is always tough. It's a long way to Alaska. They have to leave Wednesday or Thursday to get there, and it's a tough series to go up and play in Anchorage. But looking at the WCHA standings now, Bowling Green is 3rd in the standings behind Minnesota State and Michigan Tech, and this is a very tough conference.
You're absolutely right. 2 of the top teams, not in the WCHA, but the whole country in Minnesota State and Michigan Tech. Minnesota State was ranked first for a couple of weeks this year in the entire NCAA. So, of course, 2 really good teams. And if you look at the bottom, you see Alabama Huntsville and Alaska Anchorage towards the bottom of that list. So these should be 4 games in a row that the Falcons can rebound and get back their winning ways.
Absolutely. And like you said, looking at the national rankings, Minnesota State and Michigan Tech are both right up there in the national rankings. North Dakota is first right now. Michigan State is second, and then Michigan Tech holds that 3rd spot. Bowling Green actually fell out of the top 10. They are 11th now with that loss against Northern Michigan, the 2 losses against Northern Michigan. So they fell out of the top 10. They fell from 8th to 11th. And like you said, some of the top 3 teams in the WCHA are some of the top teams in the country.
You're right, and you have to wonder, where does that going to put the Falcons for the rest of the season? Do you think they can stay in the top 3? Do you think they could possibly surpass maybe Michigan Tech if they're going to slump? But they have a huge matchup next week, and Minnesota State and Michigan Tech are going to play each other. What's going to happen?
I think it's a toss-up, really. I think it will depend on whether or not Michigan Tech loses those games. I think if Bowling Green can pull out the wins in Alaska Anchorage and Alabama Huntsville, they have a good shot. But it all depends on Michigan Tech. I keep saying Northern Michigan. Michigan Tech losing those games. I think it will all depend on that.
Yeah, it should be a very exciting series. Hopefully the Falcons can pull it out.
Absolutely.
And when we come back, it's our brand new segment, Hot or Not. We'll have our hot takes on some of BG's best athletes. Sakira right here.
Welcome back. It's time for a little game called Hot or Not. Terry and I have a topic, and we give you our opinion on whether they are, well, hot or not. I was very creative on that title for this game, Terry. Now, our first topic is Miriam Justinger. Is she hot or is she not?
I'm going to put her right in the middle, Katie. I got Miriam Justinger right in the middle. Her last 4 games, 19 this weekend against Kent State, but then 9, 8, and 9. But you have to remember, this is a struggling Falcon women's basketball team. Miriam Justinger, one of the leaders on the team, the junior forward, and she's been put in positions that she's not used to. Miriam Justinger is playing a lot on the blocks. She's been playing down low. She doesn't have the size to compete with some of the bigger players. We saw it when the team went on the road at Buffalo, trying to defend the Alexis Malones and the Krista Bacchuses of the world. She just doesn't have that size, but she's been doing a fantastic job offensively. She's been doing the little things as well. I wouldn't put her at extremely high yet because she's not really leading them to that victory standpoint yet. I don't think that's all on her, but
I'm going to cut you off there, Terry. I'm not even going to put her in the middle. I'm going to put her at the not area. I think, yeah, she had a 19-point game, but like you said, 9 points, then 8, then 9. She's not very consistent with those double-digit scoring points. She's not hot. She's not hot, and it also correlates to the winning aspect of this women's basketball team. Yeah, she may get some points, but if that team's not winning, it's hard to say that she's hot if the results aren't there.
I think that's your one argument, Katie. I think it's the winning, and winning is everything. This is sports we're talking about, and the Falcons are just not getting that win. It's the reason why I don't have her up here, and it's the reason you have her down here.
See, you might like this next topic then, Terry. Men's basketball, hot or not on that 2-game losing streak?
Not. What have you done for me lately? Great season. We saw the article on the homepage of bgsu.edu, winning ways with the Bowling Green Falcon team. This is a team that we haven't seen in almost a decade being good in basketball, but they're still showing their inexperience. We saw it with those 2 huge losses. Big loss on the against Saturday against Buffalo, but a bigger one on Wednesday at home against Miami, one of the worst teams in the conference, and they dropped that game. They just can't afford losses like that.
See, Terry, I'm at the opposite end of the spectrum. They are hot.
No.
They are hot. They are 17-8. Yeah, they're on that 2-game losing streak,
yes,
but they are 2nd in the MAC East, 4th in the MAC West and East combined. Compared to last year's team, that is absolutely incredible. They take Ohio and Miami on this week, but they are that record, Terry, 17-8. How can you say that they are not hot with that record?
Because they're 0-2 in their last 2 games. Yes, great season total, but it looks like they're on a bit of a decline. I know we have to compare them to last year's team, but I think that's why we put them at such a high spectrum. We're putting them on a pedestal that they just haven't earned yet. We'll see where it finishes off with the season, but right now, I think they're trending downwards.
We'll see, Terry. I think I'm right with the hot, but I guess we'll find out. Now, moving on to the next topic, we're going to switch it to the Diamond. Softball, are they hot or not? They're 4-4 so far this year.
I'm going to put them right in the middle, just like their record. They're
sort of
at
like
500.
Mine. Yeah,
it
right
has to be.
middle.
I think we're both on the same page here,
Yeah.
Katie. It is too early to tell if they're hot or not yet. They're playing down south. They're in Charleston, South Carolina this weekend. The weather's still too cold to play up here in Bowling Green. Wait till they get in MAC play before we decide if they're hot or not. Down south, they always seem to have troubles to start the year. I mean, it's hard to travel on the road just getting back into play like they always do, but it's just too early for me to tell.
I think you're right. This weekend they went 1-3, and the weekend before that, their opening weekend, they went 3-1. So really just flip that, and then it's the same. I think you can't tell this early on if they're hot or not. I think that intermediate spot is the best spot for them right now. The record says it all. 4-4, they're even. So we'll put them at the even mark,
Yeah, a month from now we'll be able to decide, but right now it's just too much of a question mark.
It absolutely is. Now, taking it to hockey, since we love to talk about hockey so much, Ben Murphy, or Tommy Burke rather, getting ahead of myself there. It's 2 hockey ones. Tommy Burke, is he hot or not?
For Tommy Burke, I got to put him right in the middle. Of course, he had that big loss this weekend. Tommy Burke has been 3-2 in his last 5 games. Better than 500, but not quite yet hot, I would say. He had a good performance this weekend, did get the loss, but I think he needs more help from his defense. And we're going to see, will he get all the starts from now on with Chris Snell struggling? But right now, I'm just going to put him at the intermediate level.
See, I'm going to go with Tommy Burke. He's hot. He's hot right now. Yeah, he had that one loss against Northern Michigan. Chris Snell had the loss as well, though. I don't think that you can really compare
Chris Snell's
the
cold.
two.
Chris Snell's colder than ice right now. He's coldest outside right now.
To put it bluntly, Chris Snell is colder than ice. But Tommy Burke, he's hot. He had that one loss, but he also had those 3 wins against Ferris State before that one loss. In his last 5 games, he was 3-2, 3-2-0. He's done incredible so far. He puts him up at the hot mark, and I don't think you can go without Tommy Burke. I think Tommy Burke can be that go-to goalie.
I think he's definitely their best option right now. Tommy Burke is playing by far the best of the 3 goalies, and I would go with him as well. But I just cannot put him at hot quite yet.
Oh, is he sort of in the middle of hot and intermediate?
Yeah, I would definitely. He's trending upwards, but I think without that loss this week, and it's not just the loss. It's the fact that it was a loss in the 3rd period. It's the clutch time. You got to make those saves. I know it's on your defense, getting those penalty minutes, and they haven't been providing you the best support, but you have to make those saves in the clutch time. He just didn't do it on Friday.
I think, though, he has made those saves, though. He's played in 16 games. He's only allowed 6 power play goals. And for, a team that really prides itself on the power play kill, Tommy Burke is a big part of that. And if you're not giving up those power play goals, that gives him, that puts him up there with pretty hot.
You make a good argument, Katie, but I still can't put him all the way up there
Okay, we'll agree to disagree on this one. Now, hockey again, I already jumped to this earlier. Ben Murphy, is he hot or not?
I'm going to, again, go right in the middle this weekend.
You're very indecisive, Terry.
Very in the middle. Let's see how it plays. We still have some season left, Katie. Ben Murphy right in the middle in this one. No goals this weekend. A goal last week of Ferris State and a loss, but I'm just not seeing how Ben Murphy to put him at hot yet.
I'm going to put him at hot. Ben Murphy's on the roll.
Everyone's hot for you, Katie.
I know, they are. He hasn't had a goal this past weekend, but like you said, against Ferris State, he had some goals. He had an assist. He's also tied for 2nd as the leading scorer on this team. He's tied with Brandon Hawkins as leading scorer. How can your second leading scorer on the team not be hot?
What have you done for me lately? I'll say it again.
What he did for you lately was score a few goals for you against Ferris State.
Not this weekend.
That was 2 weekends ago. This weekend might have been a lost cause.
It was.
No. Well, I guess that's our edition of Hot or Not. We'll still agree to disagree on some of our topics, but
per usual,
we'll convince him. I'll convince him later. So, after the break, Swim and Dive is headed to the MAC Championship. We'll take a look at their season and the upcoming meet ahead.
And welcome back. And the Bowling Green swim team has had a terrific season and will be competing at Eastern Michigan starting on Wednesday in the MAC Championships.
You are definitely right, Terry. A terrific season by these Falcons. They went 9-1. Their only loss came to Buffalo, the second to last meet in the season. They played some tough teams, though, too. They went to Eastern Michigan, where they were at Oakland, so they were away when they competed against Eastern Michigan. They played Akron, the defending MAC champions, Toledo. It's been a very tough road for the Falcons, and they've come out on top on most of their meets.
And you talked about that Buffalo loss, but that loss was only by 8 points, Katie. A very close meet between the two squads. So it's neck and neck between those two and, of course, Eastern Michigan.
Absolutely. Eastern Michigan was their second closest meet by 10 points. The biggest win, though, for the Falcons came over Ball State, the very first meet of the season. They won by 93 points. So it's going to be a very interesting MAC champions. If we look at Buffalo, actually, their overall record is 7-2. They lost to Eastern Michigan and Miami, and they were Bowling Green's only loss.
You're right. Buffalo has had an outstanding season, one of the best teams in the MAC. They're first in the 50, 100, and 1,000 freestyles and first in the 400 individual medley. This is the only team that took down the Falcons in the pool this year. We're going to see if they have the guts to do it again.
Like you said, that 50 and 100 freestyles, Victoria Griffin for Bowling Green is normally dominant in those freestyle races, and for Buffalo to be first in the MAC in those races, it's going to be a very, very tough meet coming up. And another tough team, like you said earlier, is Eastern Michigan. If we take a look at Eastern Michigan, they're 6-1-1 overall with a 4-1 conference record, and their only loss was to Bowling Green.
You're right, a team that is undefeated, unblemished besides that Bowling Green in that battle of the birds in the pool. And the best thing about the Eastern Michigan Eagles is the 10 upperclassmen. A lot of experience on this Eastern Michigan team.
They do have a lot of that experience in the pool. They are third in the MAC in the 200 freestyle. They're also third in the 200 butterfly. So they are also up there in a lot of these events in the MAC.
You're right, that's a great team that gave the Falcons some struggles, but Bowling Green, they've been in that clash with them before. I think that gives them a little bit of a competitor's edge when you go head-to-head.
Absolutely. They did see them earlier this season. I said it was their second closest meet by 10 points. So Buffalo and Eastern are some of the two toughest competitors going into MACs, including Akron as well. But if we look at some of Bowling Green's top swimmers, we have Victoria Griffin, Estella Davis, Daniela Carrillo, very strong swimmers for the Falcons.
And we have to talk about especially Victoria Griffin in the 50 freestyle, the 100 freestyle, the 200 freestyle. She has been absolutely fantastic this season. The Falcons are going to rely on her in the MAC championship.
They definitely are. And Daniela Carrillo is second in the 200 breaststroke, fifth in the 100 breaststroke. Then we have Jordan Bullock and Kristen Philby. Kristen Philby holds fourth and fifth in the 100 and 200 breaststroke. But taking it back to Victoria Griffin, you said in the 50, 100, and 200 freestyle, she is very strong on relays as well. The 200 freestyle, Buffalo held first in the 50 and 100 freestyles, but that 200 freestyle first spot goes to Victoria Griffin.
Yeah, they've been fantastic, and we talked about it with Eastern Michigan, 10 upperclassmen. Well, BG will one-up you. They have 11 upperclassmen, 4 seniors on their team, and 7 juniors.
They also have 7 sophomores, so a lot of this team has been to MACs. They have seen this tough competition before. They've been in this spot, so this leadership is going to really help the Falcons, and it will pay off in these tough situations.
You have to think, they've had that experience. They've dealt with the stamina issues.
They absolutely have. The young swimmers are getting used to that. Coach Petra Martin has put them in situations to where they will get used to having to go, back-to-back races. And we'll talk about that later on in the show.
You're absolutely right, and I'm glad to see that they have such a veteran presence because they can help some of those younger players as well. Because when you get in the pool and it's the MAC Championships, you know it's a 4-day event. It's going to be grueling on your body. It's like nothing they've experienced before. It's like no other meets they've had this season. Absolutely.
You're exactly right. It is like nothing they have had this season because it is 4 days, and it's late night racing, it's early morning racing, it's back to back, and it is going to be very tough on these swimmers, but that is where that leadership will pull through, because they can rely on those girls to be able to give them the advice and give them the pep talks that they need to be able to get them through.
Well, we'll see how the team does at the MAC Championships.
Absolutely.
And when we come back, Katie has an interview with the swim team members Estella Davis and Nicole Ranchuk, so stay with us.
I am here with Nicole Ranchuk and Estella Davis from the BGSU swim and dive team. Thanks for joining me today, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks. So, are you guys ready for MAC Championships? It's coming up pretty quickly this week. So, what are you guys expecting going into MAC Championship this week?
We're expecting to have some really great competition going into this meet. They said it's going to be one of the closest to date in years, and we're expected to do pretty well. We're a little nervous, but good nervous, and we've just been getting ready this past week, talking with coaches, getting the energy pumping through the team, so we're excited.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty excited. I'm so nervous. Well, this is my first conference championship, so I think it will be different. But, well, I'm so excited, and I think my first goal, it will be win MACs. Mm-hmm. And then we'll just get my best times from there.
All right. So what kind of preparation has gone into MACs? I know sort of all season is built around preparing for this very end meet, but just recently, what kind of preparation has gone into it?
Like you said, we've been preparing all year with meets, and we had already swam at Eastern, so that was part of the preparation. But recently it's just fine-tuning little things, making sure we get everything right, and because every little bit's going to count for each race and each relay. So
you did say that you had already swam at Eastern. You are sort of used to the pool now. You sort of know where you want to sit, what hotel to stay at. How do you think that is really going to benefit you guys coming up this week?
It helped us make changes for this upcoming week. We knew what to do, what to not to do freshmen know the pool now for those who haven't swam in it. So it's going to be good. They know what to expect, and we'll be ready.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so important to know about the pool, about your the other meets, about your other like competition, like the other universities, and I think it's very nice. Like just went and know all these things, and well, now I feel so prepared for this big meet.
Okay, now two of the really tough teams going into this meet are Eastern Michigan and Buffalo. And Buffalo, you ended up losing to earlier in the regular season, and they were two of your closest meets this year. So how tough do you think this MAC Championships is going to be?
Like I said, it is going to be the closest meet and most interesting meet. It's hard to say during dual meets who really will come up on top at the very last conference meet because the way it's set up is so different. And though Eastern and Buffalo are going to be up there, you'll see other teams up there. Miami's going to be, because we didn't swim there this year at all against them, and Akron will be prepared and ready to go for conference as well. So yeah, you're going to see a very close race between a couple teams up there.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining me today, and good luck coming up this week against MAC at MAC Championships.
Thanks.
Welcome back. Now there will be some tough competition this weekend for the swim and dive program, but there are a few keys to success for the Falcons in preparation for MACs. Some of the big keys: the Eastern Michigan Invitational. That is a huge preparation that they already had. They've been to that pool before for that Invitational. They didn't race against Eastern there, but they were at the pool, so they got used to the hotel that they were going to stay at. They got used to, where they want to sit on the pool deck. They got used to how the pool feels. So it was really almost a dry run for MACs, just minus some of those MAC teams.
The mentality was definitely there, Katie.
Absolutely. And then they've had some big time competition. They've raced against Michigan State. They've been to the Georgia Tech Invite where they saw some SEC teams. So they have had that big competition, especially against Michigan State where they raced away and they ended up taking the victory. And then they also have seen Eastern Michigan, Buffalo, and Akron. So they have seen all three of those teams before. They lost to Buffalo, like we've said in the last segment. They beat Eastern Michigan, they beat Akron. So they have seen some of the top teams going into this MAC championship.
And Coach Patrick Martin said it herself. Every meet that the team has had this season was in preparation for these MAC championships. This is a team that finished third in the MACs last year. They have the potential to finish first this year. They have all of that talent. Let's see if they can put it to good use.
Absolutely. And I think another big key for them is they need to be able to handle the pressure going into MAC championships. They're 9-1 on the season. There's a lot of pressure riding on this team because this is one of the most successful seasons that the program has seen in recent years. So to go into MAC championships with only one loss coming against Buffalo, it's a lot of pressure riding on them.
And it's like a three-headed triangle of swimming. It's a carousel of some sorts. Eastern Michigan, Buffalo, and Bowling Green. Each team has defeated each other. That's got to give each team a little bit of confidence saying, hey, we can come out top versus anyone because we've faced the best in this conference, and each team has beaten the best in some regards. So it's going to be really interesting come Wednesday.
That was a very interesting analogy you just
I got to throw a
there.
carousel reference every once in a while.
Yeah, well, it'll be another continuing carousel up until MAC championships. Another key is they need to pull out the close races. They have seen close races in Eastern Michigan and Buffalo, like we keep saying, 8 points against Buffalo and 10 points against Eastern Michigan. They have seen the close races, but they have to keep swimming through the wall. Coach Martin always says to keep swimming through the wall, act like you're going to swim straight through it, and that'll get you to that finish line first. So they really need to be able to pull through the close races, which a lot of these events are going to be very close.
Yeah, stamina is going to be big in this one, but that's why those 11 upperclassmen are going to help out the Falcons.
Absolutely, and the stamina, this MAC Championships is 4 days. You said earlier it is very grueling. It is Wednesday through Saturday, nothing like they have ever seen before. It's a very long meet. They have, they've traveled before, they've had some invites, but not 4 days long.
And the whole season comes down to these next 4 days, Katie. It's going to be very interesting.
It absolutely is. Now when we come back, we'll have our picks of the week for Falcon Sports. Keep it right here. Welcome back. We have 4 games this week to give you our picks of the week: men's basketball, swim and dive, baseball, and hockey. And what makes our picks better than putting a little friendly competition into it? We have my picks, Terry's, and studio crew's picks for each game. Each week we'll keep track and see who has the better record at the end of the semester. So first pick is men's basketball against Ohio. I have to go with Bowling Green.
I think you're right, kid. It's got to be the Falcons. They're coming off those 2 big losses, and it's going to be against an OU team that's been really struggling of late. I expect Rashawn Holmes to have a huge game in this one.
I'm hoping Zach Denny can sort of pull one out again. We saw him with 5 points this last weekend, so maybe he'll get some more than 5 points this weekend. But got to go with Bowling Green. And crew also has picked Bowling Green, so it's a sweep across the board. Bowling Green for men's basketball. Now we're going to move on to swim and dive with the MAC championships coming up. It's between some tough teams. I'm going to go with the Falcons.
I'm going to go with the Bulls. I'm giving it to Buffalo. It's going to be a really close race between those 3 schools, but I think Buffalo is going to come out on top.
Oh, crew says Eastern Michigan, so it's split all over. I'm going to go with the Falcons, though, just because they have seen Buffalo, they have seen Eastern Michigan. They did lose to Buffalo. It was really close, and they do have all of that experience going into it. So
yeah, it could be any of those 3 teams, so it should be interesting.
It's good picks by all of us, though, for the top 3. Now, baseball against Eastern Kentucky. I'm going with the Colonels.
I'm going to go with the Falcons, Katie. I like Brian Bean having a big one in this contest. They were off this weekend. I think they're going to be poised and ready to play.
Crew says Bowling Green as well, but I'm going to pick the Colonels just because they did have that break, and I don't think that break is going to help them. I think it's going to hurt them in the end, if it's not canceled, since it is in Eastern Kentucky.
That should have been another option, just cancel.
Absolutely, we should just a red X. But now hockey, Bowling Green. They're playing against Alaska Anchorage. I've got to go with the Falcons.
I got to agree with you, Katie. Bowling Green against the worst team in the WCHA in Alaska Anchorage. I like the Falcons' chances not only to win, but to win big.
And to no surprise, crew picks the Falcons as well. Another sweep across the board for Bowling Green. I think they're going to rebound from that loss against Northern Michigan. I think they'll come out not just with one win against Alaska Anchorage. They're going to go with a sweep.
I think you're right, and I think it's going to be 2 big victories for the hockey team.
I think it is too. I think they want some of that revenge coming up.
The pressure's on them now, and they're going to shine.
Absolutely. Now that is all for BG24 Sports today. Follow us on Twitter at BG24 Sports Now for breaking scores and news, and follow us on Instagram at BG24 Sports.
Plus, check out our website at BG24news.org for more videos. I'm Terry Lash.
And I'm Katie Wernke. Have a great night.